Alright guys, it's 6:04. I think we can start now. So right now, officially welcome everyone from Brainster HQ. My name is William and I'll be the host of this webinar together with my colleague Alex, who is the program director, and he will be also the co-host of this event. He'll be here to offer any information you might need for the UX marketplace, maybe starting a new career as a UX designer and anything related to Brainster's UI/UX Bootcamp. Of course, here with us is Maggie Jandova, for whose words and presentation we have gathered up. I'll let Maggie introduce herself, but quickly a few things about her. She likes making products easy to use, is very passionate about for solving problems and eventually leaving an impact. She currently works as a UX designer at swat.io. So Maggie, we're very pleased to have you tonight, and the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction, and hello everyone. Thank you for joining. About my journey of things I wish I'd known before my career, starting as a UX UI designer. I think when I started my UX UI journey, it was quite an unknown territory. I come from graphic design background, and that means that I was used to quite different setup. Like, we were super small team, and I had no experience working with product managers or developers, and I had kind of no expectations. So then my first experience when I joined startup, we were like really huge place, over 100 people, and it was like my real experience in this field. And there were many unknowns, many situations that I was not like fully ready for. And I don't want that like to sound scary, but like more as a preparation, that I think sometimes you will encounter situations when you're like, okay, I did not sign up for that, like what's happening? But I would say that's the reason why we're here today. I want to share with you my journey and some learnings that you can take from it. In the end, we will also have time for questions. So if there's anything popping up across the presentation, just please leave it for later, and I will try to answer every question that you have. So then let's jump in, and Bill already said a bit introduction about myself, but I thought it would be weird speaking to you without kind of introducing myself. So I'm originally from Prague, Czech Republic, but now for the past years, I live in Vienna. And yeah, I'm super passionate about UX UI, solving problems, communicating, and also encouraging other people to join tech or also join product design, UX UI design. I love that through this job, you can really have impact and you continuously provide value. I think that's for me super inspiring. And throughout my journey, I worked both in B2C and B2B startups. Right now, the company where I'm swat.io, they're SaaS, and it's a social media management platform. So really cool topic, also quite, I think, relevant for these times when everyone is on social media. But enough about me, and let's jump in to my learnings. So first thing I want to share with you, things I wish I know, is you'll always have to explain your design. So here it doesn't matter how junior, senior you are, you will always have to speak about the work you do. And I think that can come as a surprise, because you think, okay, if I have something ready, I can just show it. And yeah, it doesn't work like that, but we will jump into like a scenario where I was. So we had this page and we wanted to improve above the fold. So what you see before scrolling anywhere. There was high bounce rate. So people entering this page, they would just see it and then they would leave immediately. And we knew, okay, we must improve it so we don't lose these people. So we did like research, we all came together as a team. We were thinking about all the things we can do to improve it. And in the end, we did it. We were really proud of it. And like, I had the feeling, yeah, it already looks so much better. Like, it's already so much better. And also the feedback I got from the team that were working on this with me, they were also excited. I think we did the most we could. Always remember that you always have to respect the brand guidelines. So you cannot go like completely crazy dribble style, because you have to respect the environment where you are. But hey, like, we were really proud of it. And then you think, you know, like, it's actually already there. So that's it, right? Well, actually, the fun just begins. So then all the questions starts popping up. So like, where is the text and where's the image, and why these filters are not blue anymore, and kind of like these comments that I know like people mean it right, but then they all came on you, and you're like, even the people that should not be involved in this conversation are jumping in. Like, what's happening? How do I control it? So that's one situation that can happen. Another one can happen that you share your design through Figma, right? And then you come back to your file, and you always have this little comment icon with the red dot. You know, there's some new comments. I think by purpose you don't see the number of comments you have there, because then you click it and you're like, okay, what happened? Like, what did I do to deserve this? Like, what's happening? And you kind of don't understand why there's so many opinions, suggestions, questions. Well, the truth is that if no one understands what you're trying to do, it will not get done, and people will continue to suggest alternative solutions. So yeah, no matter if it's in a video call, if it's in a Slack environment, in Figma, you will get questioned a lot. So you always have to be super aware of what you're doing, and especially why. I think for us, it's sometimes very common to do things intuitively, because maybe you have really good base from psychology, or like you did some user research, or you also studied graphic design before. So you have your reasoning why you did certain decisions. It's not like you're imagining it like out of nowhere. So you have your reasoning, but it's sometimes not so easy to speak about it. But be aware that each time you're in a project, you're trying to do three things. So you want to solve the problem, you want to make it easy for the users, and you also want to get the whole team on board. And that's like super important aspect, because again, if the team is like questioning it and they don't really trust you, you will not get the support, and maybe it will not get implemented. So it's really important that everyone understands your decisions. Also, make sure that you're speaking language that everyone understands. I think sometimes, and I'm also guilty about it, we speak UX UI design jargon, and we use these phrases like cognitive load, or I remember like in the past that was our team, we were talking about card sorting, and we thought it's like pretty clear, card sorting, right? And then I heard from the developers, they were like, why are you always speaking about this card sorting? Like, what does it mean? And then you say, well, actually, it's like sorting cards to figure out important sort of information, but it was not clear like upfront. So just make it very simple that everyone understands, because don't just speak so that you sound smarter. Speak so that everyone can understand you. And also think about how you communicate. That's again like super important aspect, and it will reflect kind of how others see you, because you can either talk about the visual changes, the visual aspect from it. You can say, I removed this image because it looked too crowded, didn't work, was busy. So in that case, you're really focusing on the visuals. But instead, you can focus on the problems that you're trying to solve with that. So you can say, I removed it because with the text on top, the text was unreadable. So users would not get any information from that. And it also contributed to the higher bounce rate because the users did not understand what we offer. They did not see the product below. So focus on the problems. If you're focusing on the visuals, how things look like, and you also always speak about the visual side of it, people will see you as the prettifier, will approach you like, hey, can you make it pretty? But I think you're not there just like for the UI. You will also want to prove that you're a really great problem solver and that you deserve to have that seat at the table and come up with suggestions and ways of how to solve the problems. So a small summary of this part that we covered is always know what you did and why. And if in the beginning, maybe you're not used to it and it's a bit hard, you can also just write some points down, because if you're not confident speaker, this can really help you to kind of stay on point and get to the things that you wanted to say. Always have the whole team on board, have their support. That means they have to know what you did and why. Speak language so that everyone understands you, and be prepared, because people will come up with alternatives. So you should be able to prove, okay, I've been there and I've done that, and this is why we did not pick the alternative. You have to convince everyone that the solution that you went for is the one that's the best one, right? So moving on. So now we know a bit about how to communicate, but how to listen. So how to take feedback, because this is super hard actually, because I think you have been there at some point. Didn't have to be like your UX UI career, could have been at school, anywhere. And in the beginning, like your excitement level, confidence level is really high. Like, you know, you did a lot of work, you're excited, you're happy. And then as the meeting kind of proceeds, you start to lose the confidence and lose the excitement, because again, like, people give you this feedback and maybe it's a bit harsh or questions all the things that you did, and that doesn't always seem good. So like, okay, here goes my design, like it's a piece of trash. No, so I just know it can feel very frustrating, and the truth is that everyone will have opinion on design, and that's like quite hard to acknowledge, but know that we're so connected to everything tech. We're on phone all the day, we're using websites, everyone on the team. So of course they will have specific opinions or also suggestions. And so not only we're always surrounded by digital products, so we get inspiration from there, but also companies understand the importance of UX UI, and they just want to make sure that whatever the whole team produces, it's something that will help the business and that the users will love it. So it's a bit like, okay, that's hard, everyone will have opinion on my work, but at the same time, like, imagine this way, you will be a very popular person, right? Because everyone wants to speak to you and everyone wants to give you their ideas. So just know that feedback isn't there to trash your work, even though it might sometimes feel like it, but it's to align on common understanding of the solution. And if you ever feel like that the conversation is steering into educating you about design principle or stuff like that, just be there to say, okay, the purpose of this meeting is for us to decide which direction to take in the solution. And for example, you can leave all the visual related aspects to design specific feedback studio. So what is design feedback? So in my previous company, we had design studio, and there was a space for us, for designers to come together, share what we're working on, present, discuss, but actually more than discussing, it became like a critique, and I hated it. I hated each time. It would turn like into a battlefield where I felt that everyone is like criticizing me for the things I'm doing and how am I doing. And I didn't want to present my work anymore because it felt not a safe space, and I just didn't want always to get this cold shower and feeling that what I'm doing doesn't make sense. I think in that case, it was a lot of around the ego of the team. I think the team was pretty new and we were all trying to kind of prove ourselves and say, hey, I really know my stuff, you know? So giving advices to everyone, but it was a bit hurtful. But then we implemented this method of feedback, like I wish, I wonder, which is much nicer than always saying what you don't like. So, for example, instead of for the I wish, someone could tell you, hey, what are you doing? The design is not accessible at all. Have you considered being AA compliant? So that can feel like a bit tough, right? But if you rephrase it saying, I wish we could make it accessible, it has like whole different tone of it. It's more like open and it's not so direct. So also with the I wonder, you could be, hey, why are you putting these USBs here again? They are already on the previous page. Doesn't make sense. You can be like, hey, I wonder if it actually does make sense to have this unique selling points here at that step of the journey. So you always have to like see what works for your team. But I know this really made difference for us because it was not such a battlefield anymore, and we felt more safe to discuss things. But okay, back to dealing with stakeholders. So, and they give like all sorts of this different feedback. So happy for that, but it can also be sometimes hard how to respond to it. So it can happen. They, for example, tell you, I don't like the position of this button. And there's like different ways of how you can approach it, right? So you can be like, okay, don't worry. It's only in like a wireframe stage, or like, I'm not completely ready. I will change it. Just give me a bit of time. I can do it after the meeting. Or you can say, that's actually more of the design decision, and we can focus on solution, and the design I can discuss with the designers, right? Or I can be like, why are you asking this? I would actually like wonder what you would do in this situation. So type in your ABC. I'm really curious how you would approach if from some stakeholder you would hear, hey, I don't like it. Can you do something about it? So I will wait. What are your answers? I'm really curious.
Maybe we have some experienced UX designers and have experienced this on their skin. So Raz, in the chat, what's your choice from here?
So in the
if you're a beginner, just write what you think is the best answer to that objection, sort of.
Okay, then see, okay, see, so we have some Ys. Okay, nice. So I know I will.
People saying four, people saying C, two people saying B.
Okay, so I'm happy no one picked A, and I mean, I'm not telling you it's like completely wrong, but you want to get away from being a people pleaser, right? So doing something just because someone told you to, then you're like this order taker and you always say yes to everything, but then you don't really get your word out there. So I'm kind of happy you guys did not pick A. I saw some Bs, and again, I cannot like fully say it's wrong. But think what we covered in the first point, that you want to get the whole team on board. So if they don't like something, try to understand why. That brings us to C, why. So always try to understand. Part of being great communicators is also about listening. And sometimes people are not able to express things immediately. And you have to like push them a bit and try to find a motive, like why they didn't like something. So you can try to ask like, yeah, why do you think this solution would not work? And that pushes a bit that, like, that pushes them to talk about it, think about it more. You're trying to get away from the opinion being very subjective, that someone doesn't like something, but before you like completely discard it and tell them to mind their own business. No, stay professional and like just like try to bring everyone on the same page and just understand them. So here's some action points. Remember, it's sometimes hard, but everyone will have opinions. So you have to be prepared for the situation. And always uncover the I don't like, because you want to be there to listen. And when you show others that you listen to them, they will also respect you more and will want to work with you. Because if you're just ignoring everything they're saying, that will be also hard for them, and they will feel that they're not being heard because you're not trying to understand them. Also, if you feel like it's becoming way more a visual feedback than focusing on the solution, you should be there to kind of push in the right direction. And yeah, for the feedback across the design team, try whatever feels good for you, but try to make a space where everyone feels safe, welcome, and isn't kind of, even before the meeting starts, is already rolling the eyes and thinking, I don't want to be there. So like try to make it a safe space. So then we got a next topic. Don't get too attached to your designs. And I put it in quotes, your design, because remember that it's a teamwork. So even though you executed it in, so it has some specific form, it's team effort. So you had a product manager involved, maybe you had user researcher, or you had some stakeholders. So don't think of it as think of it as like a teamwork. But now we will cover some situations that can happen, which would make you feel quite frustrated if you would be attached. So one of the situations can happen, minimal viable product. And it's funny because it's usually never minimal, even though it says so in the title, right? And then it happens that the design becomes very compromised. You have to cut out all the cool things and the things that you were proud of. You just have to leave them behind because everyone keeps reminding you that we have this deadline and we have to get through with whatever you have. And then in the end, you're kind of feeling a bit embarrassed and you don't really want to show it in your portfolio. You're thinking, how will I show it in portfolio? This doesn't prove my skills. I can do much better than this. So that becomes a bit hard. But know that you're designing things not to kind of like have them on Dribble. I love Dribble for inspiration, but it's also very tricky because I think when you see Dribble and you're thinking everything is so polished and perfect, but it's out of context. In most cases, it's out of context. And then when you add all the things like, okay, it has to be accessible, it has to have some SEO text, it has to have some promotions, and you add all these things on top, plus the existing brand identity of the company, yeah, you realize it's not really Dribble-like, and that can be a bit kind of hard to realize. But yeah, Dribble, take it as inspiration, but don't get like too focused and wanting to kind of always have your designs this way, because Dribble is not always real. It's out of context. Another situation that can happen is descoping. So it happens that the project grows way out of proportion. So everyone has all these cool ideas and they keep adding them, like, hey, maybe we can squeeze it in. Let's add this feature and that feature. And then the design that you thought is final kind of has to turn into a vision because it's not feasible to do it. And then everyone is scared that the deadline will not be met, and you kind of have to cut things. Again, usually it's the cool things that you have to cut, which is sad. But focus on what gets shipped. So don't get stuck on it doesn't look exactly the way you want it, but think about the whole journey, the things you learn from it, and think about it, it still got done. As long as it gets done, be happy. Because also this can happen. So in this case, it doesn't get done. And I think this is like the most frustrating thing that can happen. I've been there. So I think if it would ever happen again, I would kind of be more cool about it, because I know in the first case, I was super attached to the project. We have spent so much time. There was so much research done and involvement from across the teams. We had design workshops, everything. And then it just kind of got pushed back. And then there were new priorities. And like no one said it out loud, but yeah, it was canceled. So this was like really, really hurtful. But that's why you should not kind of get too attached. You have to be ready to move on. Just take from it as much as you can, learn from it, see what you would do better next time, or what could you do to maybe prevent it. And actually, some time ago, there was also a nice presentation from Nina about how to prevent the murder of your design, where she speaks about situations, how to try to avoid when things kind of get descoped or canceled. So really can recommend this one. So in the end, remember for this point, things won't be perfect. So don't feel like for portfolio you need to have a Dribble-like designs, because in portfolios it really it's super important that you tell a story, and that is like whole journey, and there you cover. Usually like good stories also have like this point where you're failing a bit or something doesn't go super right. So know that things are not perfect and they won't be. Also priorities can change, and sometimes also designs don't define you who you are as a person. So that's why I said don't kind of feel that you're too attached, because that's your work, but in your person, your own being. Be ready to move on if things don't go as planned. And super important one, document your projects along the way, because especially if you're in some really long project, and then you want to turn it into case study, it's sometimes hard to kind of rewind and think about all the things you did and what happened. So it's nice maybe if every month or so you try to revisit the things you have been working on and try to document it, so that when you come to the stage that you want to present it in the portfolio, it doesn't take you like multiple weeks to gather all the information and put them down together. So moving on, we have another topic is learning to say no. And I think that's kind of hard, because especially for me when I was starting and I was junior designer, I thought I'm not in a place to say no. I'm super grateful for my opportunity that I made it. I'm here. And I felt kind of scared about saying no, or I just wanted to make everyone happy. So I was a bit this people pleaser. So yeah, stay away from it, because then it's kind of a bit trickier for you to get away from it. But so you always want to be a strategic partner rather than the order taker that says yes to everything. So if you have someone coming to you, most cases product manager saying, hey, I have this really cool idea, can you design it? Before you agree to anything, think of some things. You think about, does it solve the problem? Is it actually making it easier for the user? Do I even have capacity? Because if you already have many things happening, you will not be able to take on this extra task. And also in this case, I do say no, but don't just say no without anything, okay? Just again, you want to kind of keep it friendly and have everyone on the same page. So try to understand the other person, where they're coming from. Maybe they're really like pushed by time or by the leadership to do something quickly, and this pressure is also on them. So that's why they want to get something really done fast, and they have some ideas, they want to already have them done. So always try to understand the other person, and so it's not just plain no, but it's like, hey, I understand where you're coming from. However, for example, at this time we have other priorities, or this is not the best way how we can solve this problem. We would need more research. So try to explain why that's not a good idea. So this is all about speaking up. So always set realistic expectations, challenge ideas and priorities, because again, this will make you someone that people want to have in the room. They want to have in the meetings because they know that you're there to discuss and not just say yes to everything. Ask why, that's very important. And as mentioned before, just get away from being order taker, because once you're there, it's a bit trickier to get away from it. And then we have the last section is about front ends. And maybe you're thinking, okay, they're there only for the delivery part. So why should we be vibing together if I only like pass my designs onto them? Well, it's not as easy, because I think in many cases we feel like, yeah, the design is ready and we just kind of present it to them, pass it on. And then, yeah, from their side, also many questions keep popping up, some possibly edge cases that you did not consider. And they are usually aware of all the different scenarios that can happen. And you should just like use their knowledge, because of course they're also part of your department and they build products. So also from their previous experience, they have a lot of knowledge that you can share between each other, and they will really appreciate it. And you would be surprised, or maybe not, but many front ends, they really care about UX. So if you don't include them in the conversation, they will maybe talk behind your back. But basically what I'm trying to say, they really care. They also care about the user. Again, they also have opinion. They also use many products. And so use them as a knowledge. And the communication, of course, goes both ways. So you want to have like a good relationship, because if you involve them earlier in the process, they will also involve you when they're implementing things. They will ask you about the feedback throughout. They will also avoid the situation when they're just working on it for several weeks and then they present it to you, because that would be the same thing that you would be doing if you would not include them at all and then just hand over the design. So remember, it's like two ways process. So if you're the one who leads by example and you reach out, they will also reach out to you. And if you think that someone on the team is maybe shy or not so communicative, you can also just like schedule a one-on-one call to get to know these people. If someone is shy, because of course we are all different personalities and it can be hard for someone to speak within a group. But then once you get to know them a bit and you just have like a one-to-one call, it's much easier for them to open up a bit and get to know each other. Also, sometimes they are there. You could see it as a blocking your ideas, but it's not the case. So I think it can feel like it, that they're the dream pressures when they tell you that this is not possible to do. But again, so try to understand why, and if you can help in any way to solve the situation. Because one approach you could take is saying, why are you telling me it's not possible? I have seen it before on this website, so I'm sure it is possible. And why don't you just do the wrapper element? You can fix the width and stuff. If you tell them like how to do their stuff, they will not be happy. It's the same as if someone would try to educate you about design. So don't do the same and try to educate them. They're the experts in their field, so don't do that. It's not cool. But instead, try to understand why and just like sit together and see if there's something that you can do together. I had a situation before, a front-end developer, he told me, hey, we cannot do this great sort of gallery because it's not possible. And I was like, okay, can you help me understand why? And I think the main reason was that he did not really get how it would work responsibly and how they can solve this problem. But we sit together like 2 hours just side by side and seeing what we can do. And in the end, it was possible. So it's really about understanding each other and seeing what's the blocker. Sometimes it can be, of course, like technical limitation that it's just not doable, but it's always good to understand, and therefore you don't see them as the people who crush your dreams, but the people that kind of explain to you what's doable within the tech limitations and capacity. So together you can achieve much more. So yeah, even if you're like new on the team, you can schedule a short one-on-one call and get to know these people. Definitely involve them earlier in the process so that you avoid the situation that you're just like, okay, I'm done, here it goes. So involve them much earlier, and you will see that they're very good sparring partners for any discussions and brainstorming. Try to understand the perspective from their side, like what's the constraints, and yeah, in the end you can really learn from them. So that was my last point, but in the end there's a message I want to share with you. So you don't have to know everything at the moment. So I think that can feel sometimes a bit intimidating, joining a team where everyone is already senior or are on specific level, and then you're really new to the career and you're a bit overwhelmed by all the things that you should remember and all the things you should do. So just be there to take opportunities of any learnings that you can take. It can be from talking to front ends. It can be from also failing a project. It can be from listening really careful to the feedback. So there's many opportunities where you can learn. So just use them and don't feel scared or afraid, because that's just how you move on, and that's how you explore new things. So that were all my tips. I hope that you could either relate or felt that we uncovered some things that you did not think about before. Now we will have time for questions. And I also, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can just search my name, and I'm open anytime to discussing more with you or scheduling even like a short call if there's some specific area you're interested in. So I'm really open to helping any of you, or just like chatting anything UX UI related or career related. And also I included a link to the UX UI Bootcamp by Brainster if you're interested to learning even more and like getting a head start in this career. So that was all from my side. And now I'm really curious, what are your questions? What did you think? And yeah, now the stage is kind of yours.
This might have been the best UX presentation I have seen so far this year, May.
Oh, wow.
Very
Thank
nice.
you.
Thank you very much, Maggie. The lecture was very insightful, even for myself. I really hope that everybody today found a reason why to start learning UX UI design. So before we actually jump into the Q&A session and open up the discussion, I would really like to invite you to go to the Brainster UX UI Design Bootcamp program, which is available on the website. You can find the link on the presentation, as Maggie said, but also William will actually send you the link over into the chat room. I really like to encourage everyone that is looking to master UX UI design and work on an intensive project-based program to apply for the bootcamp. You will have the chance to work on some real-world projects, to include them in your portfolio, and being mentored by instructors with more than 20 years of experience. We'll be happy to get to know each other, discuss your professional background, opportunities, career aspirations, and come up with a plan together. I really hope to see many of you on the bootcamp. I can already see some of our students present here, so I'm very happy for the support. yeah, everyone, feel free to ask any questions. It will be really great to hear your opinions and start the discussion.
All right, guys. Then everything that you took notes, rest in the chat. Questions related to the presentation, related maybe to a UX as a career path. Anything that you have in mind. We have about 10 to 15 minutes for the Q&A, so we'll wait for your questions. Here's a first question from Mano Yukumar. Sorry if I pronounce that wrong, but he says, good session. Thank you for this. I have a question. What I will do once I have learned something about UX/UI design? Could I search for internship or the jobs? Please give me suggestions.
Okay, so I would say once you have some learnings, or you feel like you're ready for this progress in the career, make sure that you have some sort of portfolio. Maybe if you have not worked on real life scenarios, there's still things that you can do in your free time where you demonstrate that you have this creative thinking process, that you're not there like just for the UI, but you could also do like some research part with your friends or with other resources that are there. So like start to build your portfolio that you could show around and really show your passion, right? So it's also about your energy that you present. So sometimes in the interviews, if you have little knowledge, but you show that you're very passionate, interested, and that you want to learn all the time, people will give you a chance. So I think internship versus job, I would say whatever lands for you. For example, for me, I was fortunate enough to go straight to job. So I would say try to go this way if there's no other way, and you feel like you're not there. And first you need some experience as internship. Of course, that's also a path you could take. But I would say if you really can, try to find a job, because then of course you also, the work you do, you're valued for it. So you, so internship, of course, you have to do for free, which can be a trigger if, for example, you need one sort of like one income from your side. I hope it helped, and if not, just yeah, I'm happy.
I would like to kind of add on to what Maggie said. We also on the bootcamp, we have our students actually work on some real world projects that are coming from our partner companies. They attend hackathons that they can actually include them in the portfolios. We have a career module kind of in the middle of the program to kind of help you out in finding your way throughout the career.
Great. All right. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Alex. We have a second question from Frane. Do you recommend any website builders for the portfolio, like Webflow, for instance?
I think Webflow could be one thing. You can also try Wix. It's for free, but I know if you want to get rid of their kind of like watermark flowing around, you have to pay some extra. But I know people also sometimes build their portfolios in Figma, because basically then you have the link that you can share, and you can share it as prototype in a way, if you know what I mean. So you have it clickable, so it looks like website, but you don't pay anything. It's out there, and you have this link that you can share around, which is pretty cool. Then there's one other source that I like. It's called UXfolio. It's dedicated for building UX UI portfolios, and they also have guiding questions that help you to answer all the different paths of the journey. So you can add specific section, you can add section I don't know, user research, and they give you prompting questions so that you know you covered all the things that people are interested in seeing in this portfolio. It's not completely free, but I think there's like a workaround that you can do if you really want to go this path. So you can have one project there for free. If you want to add more projects, you're required to pay. I don't know exactly what are the prices, but in some cases, if you have like really strong, like two case studies, you actually can squeeze it into the one project. So it still has, like you have the navigation and you can go easily to the case study one, case study two. So you squeeze it in one project. But I would say if you really want to have more case studies, it's not a good workaround, because then you would have everything on this one page. But otherwise, it's still a great tool. I cannot tell you from top of my head what's the pricing, but you can check it out.
All right, thank you for that. Basia is looking for advice on, as a beginner, would you start your career at a startup or rather a big company?
I really like the startup environment. Things are moving really fast, so I think there's a lot of opportunity to learn. At the same time, I feel that in startups, the hierarchy is more flat, because if you're in a more corporate environment, you would really feel that if you want to get your ideas through, you have to speak to certain people, or you're not always in the position to kind of let your ideas flow. So in startup, everyone is more kind of open to you being junior, because they care about all different kind of like stages where you are in your journey. And startup, for that reason, is really nice to learn. Everything's happening so fast. At the same time, you will have, I think, the situations when things don't go as planned. But again, it's great learning experience. I love startup environments, so I could recommend to anyone.
All right. The next question is from Deb. Can a UX designer at any time in his or her career work alone, or must always work with a team at all times?
I would say in a team, unless you have like your own business that you're starting, because in each company you have the product manager. I think in some companies actually UX UI is not. Sometimes I'm surprised that still some people don't know about the UX UI role, even though I think it's like getting much more visibility. But in the past, product managers or front-end developers would also kind of take over the part of design. So I think it can happen in more cases that there's no designer present and there's product manager or front-end taking over. But I have not seen yet situation where there would not be product manager, there would not be like a developer. So you have to collaborate unless you're doing like your own thing, you're co-founding your own stuff.
Okay, Gina, thanks for the explanation. This sure helps a lot, but I still somehow am asking what makes the focus different between an UX/UI designer, web designer, and a front-end developer in a team.
Mm-hmm. So I think for the web designer, I would say sometimes the companies, they have different namings of the role. Sometimes you hear product designer, sometimes it's UX UI designer, and it's a bit tricky to understand what are the different responsibilities. So I would say if you see these job roles, try to understand what would be your responsibility. But just basing this on the title, for the UI UX designer, part of your job is making the experience very enjoyable, easy for the user, and you're constantly seeking ways, opportunities, and pain points so that you make this product people want to come back. You're really helping the business like yeah. But for a web designer, just if I would see that title, I would think it's someone that does the design, so creates websites, but is not really there to take the research part or to understand the users. So I would see that as someone more visually focused, but not there for the user experience. And for the front end, as a front end, you usually work with the designers, so you're not the one who kind of executes the final designs. And also you're usually not part of the research, but you're the one who implements the things. So, so you usually collaborate with researchers, designers, product managers, and you build it. So of course, for this role, you need coding skills. For UX UI designers, it's not necessary. You should know a bit to be able to understand restrictions and or explore some things on your own in the inspect mode and stuff like that. But as a UX UI designer, web designer, you don't necessarily need to know how to code unless the role lists it in the specifications, because as I said, there are so many different things how this same role has different names. So just know what's expected of you.
Great, Gina, hope that answers your question. If you have anything else, feel free to write us in the chat. The next is from Mano. If possible, could you share the LinkedIn profile? Okay, Mano, you want the LinkedIn profile of Maggie? Please write in the chat what you meant by that. We go to the next from Andrej. Great webinar. My question is, what's your opinion on freelancing as a UI/UX designer?
That's an interesting question. So I was not in a position of freelancing. I think what can be really interesting about freelancing is that you work with all different clients. So you're not only within one kind of like product, but you're involved in more things at the same time. And I think that can be good for someone not so much. Personally, I really like to be the in-house designer because I know everyone on the team, we work as a team, and there's like one focus I have, which is actually not true. There's multiple projects going on, but it's the same product. So I think with freelancing, you usually have many things going on at once. So you have to be good at kind of having split focus on different products and projects. And then you also have to do your taxes, I suppose. So it's a personal choice. But again, I think you can learn a lot. You might not be as close to the team as in-house designer, but I think everyone has different priorities. Yes. One thing that I would also point out for freelancing, I think before it would be that if you want to have like a remote job, you would look for freelancing. But I feel like now companies are more and more open to make it possible for also role as a UX UI designer or also developers, stuff like that, remote. There's so many remote positions. I have not seen that, I don't know, 2-3 years ago. I guess it's also thanks to because we are in the situation of Corona. But I would say if you're looking for a job and you want something remote, this role is definitely also possible to do remote.
Great answer. The next question is from Rock. What's the difference between working as an in-house designer in a bigger non-design firm or working for a design agency taking on clients?
So working as an in-house designer, as I mentioned, so you're really close to the team. And I would say that you're really aware of the product, you know it by heart, and you have like one focus. If you're in non-design firm, I mean, for example, in-house designer, my company, we're not a design firm. We have a product. Our product is a social media management tool. So we're not a designer place. So I would say, yeah, for example, design agency, that's when you that's when you're in a kind of like design firm, and that means that you have many clients that you work with. So again, you have to navigate through different products and projects, and I believe you will be very close to your design team in this design agency, but you would not be as close possibly with the specific clients that you work with. It could also mean that you take on a project for a specific time because this client approaches you, they want to have some problem solved, and after they're kind of satisfied, there it ends. So it can be also like more short term, but if you're in-house, you're basically on one product and you're there throughout. There's always new projects coming in, but you're basically there long term. I'm not sure if it did answer the question, hopefully, because yeah, as a UX UI designer, you don't have to be in a design firm. Usually you're in a tech company. So my previous company was TourRadar, which is a marketplace for selling tours. The company before was Kununu, which is a platform for leaving reviews for your employer, maybe something like Glassdoor, maybe some of you know. So none of these are design, they're like tech industry. So yeah, I hope that helped.
Great. I think we've come to the end of the Q&A session. Very happy to see like 100% of people still here. So if you guys found that this hour and so interesting, feel free to check the website, learn more about the program, the real world projects, and our partner companies. They're honestly better than ever before, and just hope to see more of you as professionals in the UX/UI sphere. I'll put the link again in the chat, and as an ending, I would like to thank Maggie for the incredible presentation today, and to thank all of you that were sitting through the whole presentation and were really participating with your questions and answers. So thank you again, and from here I'll give the last words to Maggie and Alex.
Okay, then I will go first. Thank you all for sitting through almost an hour in this late afternoon or whatever time is at your place. I think it was really great. Thank you all for the questions. And yeah, as I mentioned, I'm super happy to connect with you on LinkedIn. If you have more questions or just want some buddy to chat with. I think one thing that I actually did not mention, but I think it's super important. If you're starting and you're all alone, it can feel a bit tough. So it's nice to have some mentor, coach, or other designers, finding like a group of designers where you can talk and discuss things. So just know you don't have to do it alone. There's communities and there's people that can help you, and that makes the whole journey also much easier. So again, yeah, thank you all, and thanks Brainster for organizing.
Great. Before I let Alex finish this event, just to say that we stay in contact. I'll write the email from Alex in the chat. Any questions you have related to the presentation, to career, feel free to contact him. So Alex, the last words are yours.
Yeah, I think the only thing that's left for me is enjoy the evening, guys. I think you already covered all of it. So thank you everyone for coming, and see you next month. We'll probably have another webinar coming up. So see you then.